Christian parenting.
You've got this, we'll say in air quotes, crazy idea that you want your children to go screen-free this summer, and you're wondering if it's possible or if you can even pull it off. Whether you rely heavily upon screens or it's sparingly used in your family, the tips in today's episode are applicable. Why is that? Because even though it may not matter how much your child needs to detox, the suggestions are still the same. I'm excited that you have this desire and want to try it out. Who knows where it will lead beyond the summer, but now is a good time to introduce the idea to your family. Let's do it. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast. I am so glad that you are listening to this episode. I am your host, Leigh Nguyen. Got a question here for you. Are you searching for the perfect gifts to celebrate that special dad or that special graduate in your life? We are thrilled to bring back the Christian Parenting Moms, Dads, and Grads Gift Guide. Now, I know moms we're done with the Mother's Day, right? But we still have Father's Day, and we still have graduations that we're looking forward to this summer. This year's edition is the best one yet. Whether you are honoring a devoted dad or an inspiring grad at this point, we've got you covered with meaningful gifts that they will truly love. From Bibles and study tools to encouraging books, you're guaranteed to find something special for everyone on your gift list this spring and summer. Visit christianparenting.org/gifts to explore the 2026 guide today. The link is also in the show notes. Now let's get into this rerun of an episode, but reruns, they're good. They're really good. I did this one 3 years ago, and I completely stand by everything I said, and I am excited that you want to dive into this a little bit more. So let's get going. Okay, so let's talk today about creating a screen-free summer for your homeschool children. And I want to give you a little bit of background, a backstory when it comes to my family. So my youngest is 15, and he obviously would be the one that would have the most amount of access to technology. When we first started homeschooling, there really wasn't much. I went on the internet for probably to send email, and then, on a computer, not on a phone, to send email, and then Pinterest showed up, and then Facebook showed up, and it was just like once a day for a specific amount of time when the kids were in bed. However, we did have TV, and I'm just going to put this out there. If I was to go back, we didn't have the funds necessarily, the budget for having a lot of cable, but there were times where like Disney would just show up and it would be included. And I'm just going to say right now that if I was to go back, I probably wouldn't, so we would have that once in a while. We always had PBS. But even, I don't know, maybe things weren't as innocent as I thought they were back then, and I missed some things. But in today's right now, I don't think I would let my kids watch any of it. I would be much more, we were huge into being outside. There really wasn't much TV at all. It was maybe like, all right, let mom clean up the kitchen and stuff. You guys can watch a little bit of Sesame Street or whatever was on at that time, early in the morning or something like that. But it wasn't something that we did regularly, and there were no phones that could be streaming and they could watch YouTube videos. And I have no regrets because you know what you know, and when you don't know, you don't know, but now you know. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you know better, you do better. And from what I know now, and just the research and just all the things that go along with technology, I probably would have cut out all of those shows, but I know that it makes it harder. I do know. I know that it's a nice way to be able to say, hey, let's get this done, and then this can be your reward. And I am glad that I did hold back on a lot of things, and we didn't introduce a lot of technology until our kids were older, and then walk them through all of that. And so far, my older two have their head pretty well on straight when it comes to those things, and we're still not, we haven't fully jumped into everything with our youngest, and that's our personal preference. Okay, let's talk here. Enough of my story. Let's get into these tips that I have for you so that you can create a screen-free summer. I'm excited for you about this. Okay, are you ready? Maybe grab a piece of paper and a pen and write these down. But the very first step that I want you to take, obviously I'm going to be making the assumption that you and your husband have made this decision. You've talked about it apart from your kids. This is something that you've prayed about. This is something like you are like, yes, this is what we're going to do. And the two of you, we're going to start from that point. The two of you have decided to do this, and you have come up with a plan. You have decided what this looks like in your family. So the first thing then for your kids would be for you to sit down and have a conversation with your children. It would be you and your husband with your children. Now, this is where you need to really know your family. And maybe this is something that you decide if this is something you're going to do all together, your kids, but say you have 3 kids and you're going to do it all together. Or maybe it's a conversation that you have one-on-one because you just know their personalities best, or maybe it's because their age range is wide and you want to be able to talk specifically to specific age ranges. But just remember that you know your kids best and you know how to work through this conversation with them. And so I want you also to do this in advance. Don't say, hey, we're going to have a screen-free summer and it begins right now. Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, it would depend upon how much technology you allow. And maybe you don't allow a lot of technology to your kids and they're just going to be like, oh, okay, that's fine. So don't bring this up like just that day that it's going to happen. And maybe you give them a little bit of warning. Maybe for your family, you're like, you know what? We're going to say that this is the last day and tomorrow it begins is the screen free. But I think that it's a good warning to say to you not to do like, hey, it starts right now, because maybe there might be some extra drama associated with that. And maybe this is, instead of having a formal sit down conversation, maybe it's more of an ongoing conversation. Maybe it starts out as a sit down conversation and then it is kind of ongoing to let the kids kind of warm up to this idea and work up to a certain day. So maybe you say it begins June 1st or June 15th, or you just pick some specific day that it's going to start for you guys. All right, my second tip here is, are you ready for this one, Mom? I want you to commit to at least less screens for yourself. I know it's really hard for us our emails and our calendars and everything is on our screens. There's so much that is on there. So I'm not going to tell you that you have to have 100% screen-free summer. Maybe what you do instead is your days when your kids are around are screen-free. But in the evening, and I don't want you to spend all your evening on your screens then, because then, you're going to miss time with your husband. But you may say, okay, in the evening then, that's when I'm going to take 15, 20 minutes, check my emails and check all these things. And I know that we have texts coming through and there's planning. I mean, I'm sitting here right now on my phone and I have something going on tonight. I'm seeing a ton of texts coming through about that. So I know that that is a way that we communicate with others. And I want us to be realistic. So I'm encouraging you to at least commit to having less screens for yourself. Your children are going to learn more from observing you, and we don't want to be a hypocrite. I want you to go back and listen to episode 140, where I did specifically talk about phones and the addiction and what that does to our homeschool family and gave you some ideas. So I would encourage you to go back and listen to episode 140. But I want you to at least to commit to less screens for yourself. Maybe that's specific times that you allow yourself to look at your phone and to catch up and to do some things. And I know I make appointments from my phone. I do all of these things. But kids don't see that. To them, the screen is fun. It's entertainment. There's games. There's videos. There's movies. They're just all the things that they really like are there. And they don't know that you're over there making dentist appointments or that you are over there planning a Bible study with your friends and texting them about this. They don't know that. They don't see it the same way as you do. Because for me, my phone is mostly as a tool that I use. But if little kids were to see me, they might be like, ooh, she's watching, I don't even know what the big shows are right now. They might just assume that I'm watching something fun, because I do have nieces and nephews, and if I aren't, they will come over and look, and they're like, oh, they walk away. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at my calendar, or I'm texting somebody. It's not anything that's super exciting. And all of that to say that I want to encourage you to commit to at least less screens for yourself and being intentional about that this summer. All right, my next tip here is to create blocks of time to help keep down any boredom. Maybe the screens in the TV, iPads, movies, phones, all of that kind of video games, maybe all of that stuff entertained and kept your kids busy, and now they're going to say that they are quote unquote bored. I do want you to go back and listen to episode 152, where I talk about creating blocks of time for your family this summer, setting up a routine. And I think that'll come alongside you as you figure out this. But creating blocks of time to keep down boredom so that it's not just a free for all day long. If your kids are not used to entertaining themselves or entertaining each other or being home without structure, without having homeschool stuff to do, if they're not used to that, they might get quote unquote bored. My kids, they didn't get quite bored because they knew that if they told me they were bored, I would always find something for them to do. And it wasn't, let's just say it's not something that they would have preferred to do. And I think that the more that they get used to being quote unquote bored of having that time, they will become creative. I don't have scientific studies to back this up. This is just my gut, my intuition, is that time on screens and iPads and video games, and I know some people love all these things. I'm not saying, again, there can be a time and a place, but you are listening to this episode because you want a screen-free summer. And I really do think that it kind of changes and alters your mind and dulls it down maybe in some areas. And kids can forget that they can be creative. And kids really should be the most creative out of everybody. And so by giving them some time to be creative, to get bored, and then to be creative, they'll get there. They'll get to the creative part. So by creating blocks of time so that it doesn't become tedious, and it doesn't become overwhelming, and there isn't a lot of whining and complaining. And so the time could be, well, this morning it's nice out, not too hot. We're going to spend this time outside. Then the afternoon, we're going to have some quiet rest time, some room time to ourselves. Then after that, we're going to play a game together, or we'll go over to the park for a little while, and then we have to come home and make dinner. But just having those blocks of time so that they know that it isn't just an entire day of just sitting and staring at each other all day long. This next one is like a little bug I want to put into your mind, and I want you to keep this in mind, that you need to be prepared. And this, again, would depend upon the level. And I really don't think that it probably does not take, again, no scientific studies. This is just my observation from what I have seen and just what I know of how the brain works. I would think that it wouldn't take as long for a young child to become addicted to screens than it would maybe take a little bit longer for an older child. So I don't know that it necessarily matters the amount of screen time that they had up to this summer that you're deciding to be screen free. But I just want to encourage you to, I guess I'm going to warn you, there's going to be some time of detox. And again, it depends, was it a big part of your child's day? There might be some temper tantrums, some crying. They aren't getting what they want. Addiction is real. And it sounds so harsh to just say that. You're like, well, my child is only 3. They're not addicted to me. We can all, I struggle with some addictions to different levels and degrees, and having to tell myself, no, I'm not going to do that because that is not in my best interest. But they're 3. They're not going to say to themselves, they don't have that willpower. And so you have to have the willpower for them, and you have to have the willpower to walk through possibly those temper tantrums. We have to keep in mind the dopamine that is basically, it's just a hit to our brain every time. You go on to, some of these poor kids out of teens and young adults that have unfortunately ended their lives because they didn't get enough likes, they didn't get enough follows, they didn't get enough comments on their videos, these videos that come and go and are just lost in a sea of tons of videos. The dopamine is a real thing, and I think that you've probably experienced it as well. And again, I talk a bit more about that in episode 140, just talking about the addiction that us moms can have on it, and is just wanting to look for an escape. And it's pleasurable. It for kids watching a fun cartoon, and those who create and make the cartoons and the flashy colors and the cutting from one scene to the next scene, they know this. They study the brain. They study psychology, and they know what it does. And so they create an experience that a child is going to love and to find pleasurable, and they're going to want more of it. So be prepared for detox, okay? Now that we have talked a bit more about like the harder part of it, let's turn it around. And I have 2 more points here I want to make that are positive, that are going to encourage you. And I want you to look at this time, this summer of screen-free time. That's the opposite. Screen-free time is a time for your family to create memories. One simple little thing that you can do to help create memories. This doesn't have to cost you a thing. Go to the library, pick a few books that are going to pour good character into your children. Books that are good literature, that are going to call them up, that you all are going to enjoy, and read that book aloud to them. And when it's done, pick up the next book. sit outside and read if the weather is nice, or maybe it's really hot and you crank up the air conditioning and you hang out in the living room where it's nice and cool and read the book, but create family memories. Maybe it's going just to a little concert in the park that the town puts on. Maybe it is going to a parade. Maybe it's taking picnics. Maybe it's going to parks. Maybe it's going on hikes with friends. Maybe it's having backyard sprinklers. Maybe it's going to a friend's house who has a pool. But create family memories. Make that like the anchor of your summer. And again, they don't have to be big memories, or they don't have to be big experiences for kids. Let's just bring them down, especially with all the time on screens. Their brains are expecting like these big hits of dopamine, these big things. Let's help this summer to be a time that they can learn to be content with the little things of gathering out in the grass underneath a tree and reading a book. Their mom is reading a book and they're sitting there with their siblings, and maybe they're crouched down and watching the ant colony moving all around while they're reading the book. Maybe you brought out popsicles for everybody, and just let that help them to learn that that is enough. So creating family memories is the next thing. The last thing right here that I want to mention is sometimes it's good to replace that screen time, especially if it was an anchor to your day, or if there are habits that are associated with that. Maybe it was in the morning after breakfast, or maybe it's first thing in the morning, they get to watch a 30-minute show, or maybe it's after breakfast, they get to watch a 30-minute show while you clean up the kitchen. Well, replace that time with something else, understanding that it's going to take time for new habits to form. They've created grooves in their brain that tell them that this is a specific time for watching my favorite show, and now you've taken that from them. But replace that time, replace the screens with books. Replace it with some projects. Maybe you give them some type of project to do. And I can talk about this in another episode, would give my kids specific projects to do in the summer. And I even did it as they were teens. I can look out right now and I still see our doghouse that I commissioned my son to do. Maybe he was 14 or so. And I said, your project is to build a doghouse. And you need to design it. You need to just only use the supplies that we have here at the house. If you need anything else, let me know, but you might have to buy it. So, because I knew that we had enough supplies. My husband likes to hoard extra pieces of wood, and I knew we had some shingles. I knew we had everything. So I knew he'd be okay. And so that was just like a project. Just gave him like a one-time project. So replace the screens with books, projects, games, and relationships. Make that your focus. Make relationships the focus this summer. And I want to give you one last encouragement and tell you that it might get really, really, really hard with your kids. There might be a lot of temper tantrums. There might be a lot of crying. There might be lots of boredom. And again, it depends upon how much screens were a part of your day. But if this is something that you're saying, you know what, I'm really feeling led to do this, and my husband is on board, we are a team on this, that I want you to lock arms with him and be a team and recognize that there's going to be emotions that go along with this. And if your child is 4 and they are having an emotional outburst about it, don't match and don't meet their emotions. You are, say, 34. Don't go down to that level. You be level-headed, be calm about it, be understanding about it as well. And I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you to have a screen-free summer, because I'm excited about how it could be a stepping stone for something further, or just an awareness of screens and what part you really want them to play in your life. And if you are enjoying the podcast and you have not left a review, I would appreciate it. I'm going to say thank you. Go ahead and leave a review and just let me know what you think about the podcast, what you enjoy, and I read all of those reviews. It really is a way that you can bless me and help out the podcast, just a super simple way to be able to do that. Doesn't cost you anything, and it takes maybe a minute or so of your time, and I would appreciate it.